distinguished guests, Minister, Director General, members of the Matthias Corvinus Collegium Board of Trustees, students, and members of the press. Ladies and gentlemen, to open the second day of our MCC Budapest Peace Forum, I would like to invite Márton Nagy, Minister for Economic Development of Hungary, to deliver his keynote speech.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's an honor to be here, so thanks for the invitation. It's a peace conference, and I'm just try to find out that from the economic point of view, how can I join the topics of the conference, and I choose the Hungarian economy FDI strategy, which is characterized by a peaceful relationship between the West and the East. It's a connectivity type strategy, and this is a real strategy of a peaceful economy. So what I can say to you about Hungarian economy is really a real peaceful economy, which means that keep open the door for everybody who wants to deal or wants to make business with the Hungarian economy. Even the West, German, French, or the East, Korea or China. So if you see the role of the FDI in Hungary, you have to understand that Hungary is a very investment-based economy and export-oriented. So this means that the investment ratio, which is the investment in percentage of the GDP, is around 30%, 30, which is one of the highest in the world. And meanwhile, the export in percentage of the GDP is around 90%, 90, which is also one of the highest in the world. So it is a very, very open economy. It's a small open economy, but very open economy. And the strategy, what we chose, it's unchanged during the crisis as well. So the basic pillar of the economy stay untouched, meaning that we are going on the same road further with boosting the investment. This is the structure of the investment in Hungary, which is investment in the government sector, in the household sector, in the private sector as well. The public investment is now decreasing. The private investment is increasing, and within the private investment, the financing side, the FDI dominance is also increasing, is around 20% now. So all of the investment is financed by FDI in a ratio of 20%. We can reach around 20,000 billion Hungarian forint investment this year, which will be a record. It's around 30% investment ratio still. If you see the finance of the Hungarian economy, more practically the investment side, and the discussion about the role of the EU funds, you can see that the EU funds is around 11% of the financing in case of the investment in a yearly flow. Meanwhile, the FDI is like 20%. So all of the foreign financing of the investment side is 1/3, so 33%. The majority, the 2/3, is a domestic sources. It's domestic sources, including the budget, including the lending by domestic banks or capital, or the reinvestment earning by the local companies. So this means that Hungary is financed from inside, but the foreign financing is also very, very important. But EU funding is less than the FDI inflow. So FDI inflow is much bigger, almost the double of the EU funding. And if I can say that the FDI is much more important than the EU funding, because the FDI has much more stronger multiplication effect in the economy rather than the EU funding. Moreover, the EU funds is sometimes allocated by the government, which is not so efficient than the FDI, which is led by private decisions. So I can say to you that the FDI-based economy is still there. Again, it's not a dominant role, but it's a significant role in the economy. So if you just go further, here is the FDI flow in the country. In 2022, the FDI flow was around 7 billion euro. It's on the left-hand side. And we think that it can go up to 20 billion until 2030 in a yearly manner. We will see that how can it be. I will show you some chart. But meanwhile, again, the whole investment and whole GDP can converge further to the EU average. So the FDI will be a very important role in the convergence. Again, not a dominant role, but it's very, very significant role in a world. Here is the number which is I mentioned to you that we are very open. Export plus import in GDP is more than 200. Investment to GDP is almost 30%. It's ranked 3 in the OECD. FDI inflow in percentage of GDP, so the flow is the 9th in the OECD. But in the stock, it's just the 16th places, 1-6. Which meaning this 60% in case of the stock to GDP is not a big figure. So there is a room for improving further. For example, Czech Republic is much higher, like 71 is ahead. But of course, with a more closed economy like Poland is lower. But Hungary again wants to increase this figure, so there are very good position characteristic, and I show you the strategic as well. In case of the FDI stock, it's very important. It's approaching the 100 billion euro on the left-hand side. This is a blue line, so 100 billion euro, which is in the Hungarian economy. In percentage of the GDP, again, it's around 60%. It's less than 60%, but there was times and years, but in percentage of GDP, it was higher. So this means that again, there are a lot of room to increase this stock in the immediate future. In international comparison, Czech Republic is ahead. In percentage of GDP or in GDP per capita. So you can see the light blue column in per capita. But again, Hungary is the second place, and I think it could be very easily in the first place in the Central and Eastern European countries. Of course, in case of the stock, the nominal figures, because of Poland is much bigger economy, the FDI stock is, of course, normally it's much bigger. So Hungary FDI inflow is industrial dominant. If you see the manufacturing sectors in the stock, in 2010, it was around 25%. Now is more than 45% of the whole FDI stock. Service is very important also. It's linked to the industry. But again, it's getting more industry dominant, which is of course a very big question, whether the Hungarian FDI is much better in a service base or in an industry base, meaning the energy intensivity or the value-added nature. My point is that Hungary was and will be industry dominant, but that's not mean that service is not important. Industry and services is coming in hand in hand. So it cannot be saying that only industry is which is important in Hungary. Of course, the most important is the vehicle industry and the linked industry, which is the battery production. But if you see the electric manufacturing or pharmaceutical manufacturing is also so very, very, very dominant. If you see the investors, you can see a very important change in the last 10 years. Asia was less than 20%, now it's more than 20%, it's 23%, and the new investments like the CATL and the SK Innovation is not in the figure because it's 2020 is the figure. So if you just refresh in 2022 and try to find out, the Asian part is almost 30%. And US is getting less. So like say 20 and then now is 10. And Europe and Germany also just keep the dominant place then. So this means that very good presentation of that how the West and East is connected each other, and also showing the very good strategy of the Hungarian government to open to the East as well. It's called the East Opening, and also the South Opening, which is the Balkans, but that's coming. So if you see the export figures, of course you're not seeing this kind of connectivity because all of the export is going to the EU, but you know from the EU there is a re-export to the Asia, so meaning that if you just take into account the re-export as well, which is very difficult to calculate and see the statistics, you can find the connectivity as well as a peaceful economy, but in the FDI you can see very easily this peaceful nature or the connectivity nature of the Hungarian economy. Okay, when you think about FDI, it's very complicated what is FDI itself. But what I see is that on this level, when we reach the 100 billion euros stock, in case of the FDI, we need a new agreement with the new and the existing FDI investors. So this means that, of course, we have to bring more FDI. It's a new FDI, greenfield FDI, but we have to take care about the existing FDI because the FDI is producing more FDI, meaning producing profits and earnings, which can be reinvested. And if you just, calculated that 100 billion euro, and you can just multiply by IRR, so it's, with a yield, you can see that what is the profit which can reinvest or withdraw as a form of dividend. So of course for the economy it's much better, this is reinvest. 100% is reinvest. So this means that when you take care about FDI, sometimes for a big FDI nature it's enough to take care about the reinvestment. For us, it's a double aim, a new FDI and the reinvestment, so the existing FDI investors. Here is the FDI flow. So on the left-hand side, you can see the inflow, which is meaning what's increased the FDI, and the outflow, which is decreased the FDI. So, and of course, the net is the flow itself. So on the left-hand side, there is a new capital and capital increase, which is a new FDI in the system, bringing as a greenfield investments or just raising capital. And profit earned, which means that your earnings per year. And of course, on the right-hand side, there is the dividend, which is going out, capital withdrawal, decrease the capital, and there are some debt instruments. This is kind of mother companies or parent companies lending, which is kind of form of FDI, because FDI not just itself the capital, but it's a parent company loans, so intercompany loans is also can have an FDI. So this means that, of course, the net here, but if you just want to increase, you have to increase the left-hand side, so the new capital and the profit earned, and keep the the profit in the country. It's a very interesting chart. This is the yield, what the FDI is earned. This is around 10% now, 10%. It's incredibly high in dollar terms. So in Hungary, if somebody wants to go and invest, on average, of course, across sectors there is a variance, but on average, the FDI in Hungary earned 10% in a year, 10% in a year. Of course, it's not riskless like the US Treasury or whatever, but 10% is good. It's a good IRR. And you can see the left-hand side, the billions. The billions is around, now it's 10, so approaching 10 billion, which meaning it's okay because 100 billion is the existing stock multiplied by 10% is 10 billion. So we take care about 10 billion new reinvestment earning possibility in every year. In every year, okay. Just I come back, but this is more important. So this is the reinvestment ratio across years. So now it's like 55%. So the reinvestment earning 55%, sorry, the profits, if you see the profits, 55% of the profit is reinvest in 2025. On average, it's like 50-60% in the last 10 years. So more reinvested than dividend, withdraw in the case of the dividend. So 1 minus the reinvestment ratio is the dividend ratio. In the early years, there are a lot of dividend because the reinvestment ratio is very, very low. But then the reinvestment ratio is go up and exceed the 50%. That more than half is reinvest, less than half is dividend. But it's not enough. It's not enough. It's just imagine that what's going on if the dividend ratio is like just 20% and 8% the reinvestment ratio. It's a much bigger FDI flow and FDI accumulation in the country. So the question is that if you just go to the strategy, how can you give incentive to companies? Of course, not negative incentive. I'm not speaking about taxes because it's out of question. I'm talking about positive incentives. So keep the earning here and increase the reinvestment ratio and decrease the dividend ratio. I think that's a very big issue. Here is the negative side, how the dividend, for example, is going out. If you see the dividend, this is the gray. It was very, very stable for billion across 3 years. There was a big withdrawal of shares in 2021. It was a reduction of equity in one particular company. So again, if you are thinking about FDI strategy, the focus should be twofold. One is for new investments, greenfield, attracting more and more new factory. The other is the reinvestment profit that you have to support. That's very important. So we have to make new agreement with the existing companies, which is successful in Hungary and running business like 10 years ago. The other interesting feature of the FDI is that FDI is a foreign investment. It's not a domestic one. So the profit which is coming out is not owned by domestic owners, it's a foreign owners. But how can we make more profits from the FDI? How can we connect our economy to the FDI economy? And here is two important aspects. We have to increase the multiplication of the FDI in the economy. It's both horizontal and vertical nature. I'm not saying we not did already. I'm just saying that it's much easier until this kind of level of development. We are on around 78% of the average level of the EU development in GDP per capita purchasing power parity. We have to go to 90% until 2030. Until now, it was very easy to just, attract FDI, just come and then working in the economy. That we have to now is using more an horizontal and vertical aspect of the multiplication. What is the horizontal? Horizontal is more saying that more research and development, connectivity with the universities, more intensive growth rather than extensive growth. And I'm not meaning that connectivity with the universities, let's say, okay, teach there, create new skilled labor, which can go to the factory then, and you can provide the labor safety. I'm not speaking about that. I'm speaking about science parking. I'm speaking about common investments with the universities, which is lacking. Less than 5% in Hungary, which is this kind of connectivity. Of course, there are a lot of companies who is, let's say, teach there, give money, sponsoring or whatever. I'm speaking about common investments. So we have to increase them. The research and development in percentage of GDP increased over time in Hungary, but it's very, very low, frankly speaking. I mean, 1.6% now, and in case of the EU average, it's lag behind, so it's less than 2%. The EU average is like 2.2. And if you see these countries, I mean, Hungary is not the worst position, but come on, that's not enough. So why not saying that if FDI, new FDI is coming to the country and saying that okay, not the labor is the until now, sometimes when an FDI is coming, we have one condition that they have to hire, let's say, 100 people, 500 people, 1,000 people, create job, or just maintaining the job level, not to kick up people in the crisis. But that characteristic is over because our labor market is very tight. I mean, there is no unemployment in Hungary. It's a full employment. So why not saying, okay, there is a new condition of the FDI, meaning a certain % of your net revenue should spend to research and development. So why not saying that? So that's a new aspect can be. Because this is, again, it's not enough. Business sector is, if you see, then is okay. Anyhow, the government sector is spending very less the research and development in the structure. And of course, the other question is that, which is very important, we have full employment, but the labor productivity is also very important. So the labor productivity in Hungary is in international comparison not a bad thing. So we increase the productivity much more than the EU average. But if you see the other countries like Poland or Romania, they improved much better and much stronger the labor productivity over the last 7 years. So let's go to the vertical nature. This was the horizontal, what's the vertical. Around 49% of the economy is owned by foreigners today. 51 is the domestic owned. That's the big economy, how it looks like, the private economy. This is a very dual system. The domestic companies has free choice, whether just directly go on the export market, that's the best. Produce to the inner economy. And the third is being a supplier of the multinational foreign companies, like Audi's, Mercedes, BMW, or whatever. This free is very important, so they just choose it. In case of the supplier chains, of course, it's much better to connect it directly to the FDI stock, the multinationals, rather than indirectly in the, I don't know, tier 2, tier 3, or whatever. So let's imagine that the Audi has 100 tier 1 supplier, around 10,000 tier 2 and over 100,000 in tier 3. So the tier 3 profit ratio is much less than the tier 1. Tier 1 is the best. So if you just go up, you are better. The Hungarian companies go up. Now in tier 2 is around the same as the foreigners, but in tier 1 there is nothing. There is nothing. So the aim is go to tier 1. What's the practical problem with this? If you are a Bosch or a big company and you enter in a country, you have a very stable supplier chain. Changing one part of your supplier chain, it's uncertainty because you choose a new one after a reliable one. But it can be a very good cooperation. So this means that we have to educate domestic companies to produce the required quality and quantity for that factories. It takes 3-4 years. It's a tough job. We have to work on it. We have to work on it, but that's very important. So this is the characteristic how it's look like. For example, tier 2 in the turnover related to foreign domestic. If you see this first column with the red frame, you can see the light blue and the yellow is almost the same, which means that the tier 2 foreign and the tier 2 domestic almost the same. In case of the value added is also, gross operating profit is also. So in tier 2 it's okay, but if you go to tier 1, nothing. So we have to improve again and step in the tier 1. So as a summary, I can say to you that Hungary wants to be still a very peaceful economy, which means a bridge type FDI structure, a bridge type connectivity type economy. The connectivity not just meaning in east and west, the connectivity meaning industry and service, connectivity meaning foreign economy to a domestic economy, in case of supplier chain. So there are a lot of connectivity on horizontal and vertical as well. Horizontal is like with the universities, but that's we have to work on it. I think this is a new characteristic of the FDI strategy, a double aim again, agreement of the new FDI owners and the existing ones to keep the earning in Hungary, so more reinvestment. And we have to increase the horizontal and the vertical aspects of the FDI to multiply much better the FDI in the economy. And I think this is a very key element to converge further to the EU average and reaching in 2030 the 90% development level. Thank you very much.